Shush. Deep breaths. In and out. Now let the soothing sights and sounds of socialism wash over you like a warm blanket. You have always been a socialist. You have only ever thrived under socialism. Socialism is the only way. Socialism is integral to human nature, you ignorant fuck.
Any movement?
So from Google News on the U.S. news front. By the way, I started recording as soon as we got on. So let's just say, I'm him and he's him, and we are we.
By the way, the new, I read the release notes for the new update of Apparently there's editing tools in there now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how robust they are, but.
Oh, yeah. So on hang on, let me turn the fan on. It's hot in here. And I made a post about this morning. I have a habit of doing this where on Sunday mornings, the shit that's nagging at me. And so I will make a TikTok post about it. And we wind up talking about it here anyway. Trump urges federal appeals court to grant him immunity from criminal prosecution. So if Trump has stated in the very recent past, and this was his lawyer's argument in some fucking case, where no, the president doesn't have an obligation to uphold the Constitution. That was their fucking claim. If that's the case, why are they impeaching Biden? If Trump didn't have an obligation to uphold the Constitution, why the fuck does Biden? So on what basis are they impeaching him? Fucking idiots.
Well, they're not impeaching him. They don't have anything to impeach him for. They're just doing an impeachment inquiry. They're digging around, seeing if they can find something. That's all they're doing.
On that note, did you see the headline the other day? Do you remember the Dukes of Hazzard?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, John Schneider. Yeah,
Biden should be hung publicly. Yes, I saw that.
And then he deleted the tweet. He deleted the tweet.
Yeah, so my original Twitter account got suspended a few years ago. Right, it was before Elon Musk even bought it, because somebody posted a picture of Trump and said, "What would you do if you saw this guy? You were at grocery shopping and you saw this guy walking down the aisle." And my response was, "I would sacrifice my freedom for the good of the country and punch him square in the face." Permanently suspended from Twitter. My original account that I had for like 12 years, gone. And I've appealed it so many times. But I did appeal it again in light of the John Schneider tweet. I was like, clearly something's changed, because if he can say that, then surely I should be able to say what I said.
Well, was that was before Elon took it over or after?
It was, yeah. It was before Elon took it over. Well, but I've appealed several times since Elon took it over.
Everything's free game on there now. You should be able to get back on there. That reminds me, I have a story on that note. Back in early 90s, when George Bush the first was president, whatever period of 4 years that was, I was working in one of the public schools down in Brownsville, Texas. And there was a kid, probably it was middle school, so he was probably sixth grade, in some school project, made the statement alluding to his desire to assassinate the president. And within a matter of hours, before the school day was over, Secret Service was at the school detaining and interviewing this kid. And it was the most mind-numbing thing I've ever seen. This kid was scared shitless, and his parents were there. His parents didn't speak English, and it was just a whole fucking thing. But they were there like instantly. So I can't imagine that John Schneider hasn't already gotten a visit from Secret Service or the FBI slapping him around.
Oh yeah, he probably did. You're right.
We have slated to talk about, what did we say? It was Trump's immunity claim, right? That was on the docket.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I'm aware of there's been movement in the past week. That's why I was just wondering if you heard anything about any of those other cases.
Okay, here's the other thing. and this part of this was going on last week, and it's still going on apparently, where Vivek Ramaswamy and others within the Republican field of candidates are vowing to pull their name off the primary. No, none of them are serious candidates. They're all acquiescing to this jaundiced shit gibbon and willing to throw themselves into the fire for the sake of that thing. And it's a fucking joke. Are there even any more Republican debates on the schedule before the primary?
dude. I don't know. But, I mean, no voting has taken place. All we have is polling, and polling is bullshit. So, like, Trump has an enormous lead in the polls, but until there's actual primary voting taking place, I don't know that his lead is actually that high.
Oh, but then there's also the piece where, with the Colorado decision, that is getting appealed and whatever's going on with that, the RNC has made movements in opposition to, Biden being on the ballot and so on and so forth. So the RNC and the DNC aren't any different from each other in that the DNC has already decided that Biden is the nominee, and the RNC has already decided that Trump is the nominee. All of this dog and pony show with really just the Republicans, because the Democrats are just sitting on their hands, is just, it's pointless. It's all kabuki theater. And I hate all of it.
Yeah, well, I think that, first of all, it wasn't the DNC that filed the lawsuit to get Trump off the ballot.
No, it was Republicans. Yeah.
But you're right. The RNC has filed in like 6 states. They filed to get Biden taken off.
4 of which are swing states.
Yeah, but right. But it's the primary ballot. But I think they're hoping that if whatever reason they use to get him off the primary ballot, they can use it again to get him off the general election ballot too. That's what I think their hope is. I don't know. I don't care. I don't want either one of them to be president. If they both come off the ballot, that would be best for everybody.
That's a fucking win across the board. God, this is the whole political landscape in this country is an absolute fucking shit show. There's nothing good about it. It's all fucking, oh God. I'm still looking at Google News to see if there's anything to add in here, but on the political front, Ron Johnson, Colorado, Trump ruling, radical leftism has infiltrated every institution. Just shut the fuck up.
I wish that were true.
Right? God, I'd be fucking dancing in the street if that was the case.
We'd have universal health care. We'd have voters' rights. We'd have so much cool shit if radical leftism infiltrated every institution.
That's on the political front. That's really all that's hanging out there. It is Christmas, so they say. That's a topic. It's Christmas.
It is. Well, I like how the right gets all pissed off about Merry Christmas versus Happy Holidays. And I don't really understand it. Like, I'm an atheist. I celebrate the capitalism part of Christmas because that's what we do here. Mm-hmm. I don't go to church for Christmas. I don't really give a shit about any of that. But I don't get a stomach ache if somebody says Merry Christmas to me. I don't give a shit. And I can say it to you too. I can say Merry Christmas to people. But if someone says Merry Christmas to me, I'll say, and same to you. Merry Christmas to you too. It doesn't hurt me. But they get so bent out of shape if somebody says Happy Holidays. And I don't get it. And the point of Happy Holidays is not everybody does celebrate Christmas. But there are holidays for everybody around this time of year. So that's where Happy Holidays comes from. It doesn't come from an anti-Christian point of view at all.
It's an inclusive sort of statement.
Right.
My God, inclusivity is a terrible fucking thing in this country.
Yeah, so they just get so bent out of shape about it. Oh, here's another thing. This isn't on the list, but I saw it was on CNN. They sent a reporter to Arizona and interviewed. I'm changing the topic real quick here just because it popped in my head. But they sent a reporter to Arizona, and they went to 2 family farms, like huge ones, industrial size, 5,000 acres, that kind of thing, where they used migrant workers because they have to, right? And showed them the clip of Trump recently talking about how they're poisoning the blood and all that bullshit.
Oh my God.
And like they weren't aware of, they're like, oh, well, that makes me wonder if I should vote for him again because I need those workers. You didn't know that was his position in 2016?
Mm-hmm.
He was anti-immigration back then.
Yeah.
Because they proudly said they voted for him in 2016 and 2020. But now they're thinking they might not vote for him in 2024 because they found out he's anti-immigrant. What?
Well, that's a step up from what I saw Joe Rogan's reaction to be when he was all excited about a video that he thought he saw where he said Biden's saying something so off the fall.
Yeah, it's when it was the airports and the
and then Jamie, his content guy, says no, he was just quoting something Trump said, and Rogan was like incredulous about this. And then they showed Rogan the video, and he's watching it, and Trump gets to the part where the Revolutionary Army took over the airports, and Rogan's reaction was,
Well, he just messed up. He messed up.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Is it lead? Do they all have lead poisoning? I don't know what is wrong with these people. I
saw a thing yesterday on the whole idea of boomers being inflicted with lead poisoning, and the truth of it is that Gen X got a far more lethal dose of lead poisoning than the boomers did, because we were.
I saw that too because of the leaded gasoline that went until 1980 something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that too.
We should all have a class action lawsuit against the oil and gas industry.
Speaking of lead, did you see there's lead in the cinnamon that they're putting into applesauce?
I saw the lead in the apple. I didn't know it was in the cinnamon. So how did that get in there?
The belief is that it's intentional to increase the weight of the cinnamon because they sell it by weight. So they put lead in it to increase the weight so they can sell it for more to Mott's or whoever, and then Mott's just grinds it all up and puts it in their applesauce, and now there's lead in your applesauce.
I'll be honest. When I first saw that story come out, I sort of filed it away under the usual social media disinformation about food and food products. There's so much of that shit, especially on TikTok and Instagram, and I follow a bunch of creators who debunk it, and then I started not seeing those creators debunking that, and I'm like, this shit is. It's fucking despicable. And I'm assuming that the cinnamon that they're buying is like from Bangladesh or Ceylon or someplace.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's the only place it grows.
Yeah.
I don't think it grows anywhere else.
So what mechanism is there to hold somebody who has a monopoly on it accountable? And holy shit.
So let's talk about Hyperloop.
Holy shit.
So Hyperloop is ceasing operations, firing all their employees, filing for bankruptcy. But there are other Hyperloop companies out there that hopped on the bandwagon, because it's all government funding. They were all taking government funding that might have gone to high-speed rail, and they're like, no, we'll invest in the Hyperloop instead because that sounds better. But it was never going to happen, and that was orchestrated by Elon Musk himself. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but he wrote about it in a biography. How proud he was that he got the government to defund high-speed rail and waste it on Hyperloop just so no mass transit would get built, so cars would, be more necessary, so he could sell more Teslas.
Now,
He's proud of himself.
I just Googled why, what was behind the decision to shut it down, and the only consistent quote I can find, not quote, but same verbiage, is having failed to win any contracts to build a working Hyperloop. So what are these? So these other companies certainly aren't going to be in line to pick up those contracts.
No, but they managed to get some government funding too. They convinced cities in particular to invest in them to develop Hyperloop systems for them. And this is the thing, there's no penalty if you never deliver.
I was going to say, yeah.
Nothing happens.
Yep.
You can sell a dream to a government. You have to go through a bureaucratic process to get the funding. But once you have the funding, you don't have to do anything.
Yep. You don't have to produce a damn thing. Maybe, these sorts of things should disqualify or be a strike against Elon Musk's ability to bid on federal and state contracts. This should be like on his fucking resume that this was a scam, that nothing came of this and nothing was ever going to come of it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Twitter, Elon Musk is actually going to lose his shirt on Twitter. He's eventually going to have to sell it. Mm-hmm. And he's going to sell it for pennies on the dollar that he paid for it. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt about that. And I don't think Tesla is going to survive another 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if it
120,000 vehicles they recalled.
Right, but I mean that all they had to do was
the software.
All they gave a software update, so it's not like a huge software company. But the only people who buy Teslas are Musk fanboys at this point, and your average consumer is never going to buy one. And now that all the other car companies are coming out with their own fully electric vehicles mm-hmm. that are higher quality than a Tesla, the fact that Elon never delivered the autopilot thing that he kept saying he was going to year after year after year, the fanboys are eventually going to get sick of that.
But the collateral for the loans that he took out to buy Twitter, a large portion of it were Tesla shares.
Of course, yeah. That's what I'm saying. The Tesla stock is way higher than it should be. This is not financial advice, but if you want to short some Tesla stock, I think that might be a good move. But it's way higher than it should be. It's propped up by the fanboyism and the cult of personality that Elon Musk is. Mm-hmm. And at some point, it's going to crash. And when it does, the bank is going to do a margin call on that collateral. Musk is going to have to sell his shares to pay off the loan that he took to buy Twitter. I mean, his financial ruin is very possible in the next 5 years. It really is. And I love to see it.
Absolutely.
The only thing he has, though, SpaceX is going to prop him up because they've got long-term government contracts that are just going to keep coming.
Well, yeah, and right now the government, NASA, and the Air Force are highly dependent upon SpaceX, but there are more companies today that exist in that ecosphere that are direct competitors to SpaceX that are producing reliable vehicles that are very much on his heels. Son of a bitch. What?
Now we're going to get a copyright strike.
So I think that the government could do without Musk. It just these other companies will be propped up by the government to be able to fill that space, and that's kind of the back and forth.
I remember reading a while ago, this just popped in my head, that there was some maybe lawsuit happening with was it Bezos's company or I don't know, some other company that had bid along with SpaceX on the what eventually became SpaceX launching people to the ISS, and SpaceX won that contract, but wasn't the losing company suing about something? There was something unfair about the process. I remember reading about it.
You talking about United Launch Alliance, ULA?
Maybe, I don't know. I shouldn't have brought it up since I don't know really all the details.
ULA has always been. Remember when this was back when Musk was still testing the what the fuck are his rockets called? He's got a name for these fuckers. I can't remember what they're called, but he was still testing them, and one of them blew up on the launch pad. And Musk made this crazy fucking claim that a sniper from United Launch Alliance was in a building adjacent to the launch pad and shot the rocket and blew it up. And so there was this back and forth between ULA and SpaceX for a long fucking time. But on the issue of what, because yes, the NASA relies on SpaceX for transportation to and from the ISS, but the ISS doesn't have much life left in it. I think at most
10 years, maybe.
yeah, something like that, where it's going to be drilled into Point Nemo out in the Pacific.
Right.
And at that point, everything changes.
Right, but they're also relying on SpaceX to get them to the moon.
What? Well, wait a minute. Did they get that contract? Because there was.
That's what all the current SpaceX tests are. That's for it's the largest rocket ever built.
Oh, you're talking about
that is the moon rocket.
Yeah, the one that they test down in South Texas. But
yeah, that's supposed to be the moon rocket. It's not ready, but that's supposed to be what gets NASA to the moon.
That thing's never going to work. You've seen the. It's not going to work. There were multiple.
I don't know that that's true. It could work. Saturn V's blew up on the launch pad too before they eventually got to the moon with one. There's some failure that happens before you lock down the successes. I think that's
right.
normal.
And the government is subsidizing all of his failures anyway. So
yeah, if they throw enough money and engineers at it, they can figure it out.
Yeah, because
I hate Musk and I want him to fail, but I think they'll get that rocket working. I do believe that.
But I don't know what the percentages are in terms of how many launches are Air Force related and how many are NASA. I don't want to say commercial, but NASA related. But even if you took away the ISS transportation, SpaceX does a tremendous number of Air Force related launches on a weekly basis. These things are going off from Edwards all the time. I don't think they launch some of them from Canaveral, but most of them come out of Edwards. And so they
launch commercial satellites too for companies.
Yeah. So the ISS thing is
have revenue.
Yeah, it's the most public facing, PR friendly component of this relationship that gives the public some feeling like they're invested in it. But yeah, Musk needs to, he's got a lifespan like anybody else. He's not going to remain relevant forever. He just needs to go the fuck away, and he will. Hamas tunnels. We skipped right over that. So the Washington Post basically, through a pretty thorough analysis, completely, and there's no surprise at this, but I'm trying to remember if Al Shifa Hospital was one of the very early ones that Israel blew up. But is that the one that Israel was saying, no, that was a Islamic Jihad rocket that came out of Gaza that went astray? Is that the same one?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the same one, but I remember that story too.
And so anything that Israel alleges in the last 2 months is eventually going to be debunked. I know that what the fuck is it? Colombia or Brazil? One of those two countries basically brought war crime charges against Netanyahu, and they have an arrest warrant through the ICC for Netanyahu. And then the whole thing becomes like it did with Putin when the European Union or some other country issued an arrest warrant for Putin after he invaded Ukraine, and then Putin was going to visit South Africa for some forum, and there was a big debacle about whether or not South Africa was going to arrest him because they're signatories to the ICC. I don't even remember what happened with that. I think he did a Zoom call instead of showing up. But
I think he went. And South Africa didn't arrest him.
Really? Yeah, that's.
I think. Well, I know. South Africa said they wouldn't arrest him because they're in that BRICS.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so the whole here we are fucking going on 3 months into this fucking, and the footage that I've seen lately of what's left of northern Gaza looks like they're prepping a construction site. It is leveled. It is void of any buildings. It is completely bulldozed over to the point where it's it's being prepped to build something that Israel is going to own and occupy and run, and
Of course.
it's fucking shit. And we're over the death toll numbers.
Talk more about the Washington Post article because I read it. They found that the tunnels didn't connect to the hospital at all.
Mm-hmm.
They found no evidence whatsoever that the hospital had been used in any way by any kind of military anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel didn't care. I saw another thing, and I don't know if I saw it on TikTok, so I don't know if it's 100% true, but apparently some U.S. congressman decided to give Israel the locations of some Christian churches.
Oh, I saw that this morning. Yeah.
And to ask them to protect them,
mm-hmm.
and Israel bombed them. Not that Israel wouldn't have known where they were to begin with, but so I don't want to give credit to the politician for, enabling the bombing of the churches, but because Israel, they're just bombing literally everything over there.
But everything about that story stinks from every angle. Because first of all, some U.S. official relaying information to Israel about you can kill everybody else, but don't hurt this, and the hypocritical, loathsome motive behind that idea it can't be overstated. And then you have the fact that Israel was like, well, fuck it, we're bombing everything. Nothing about this carries any merit.
Well, but here's the thing. It does make sense for a U.S. congressperson to want to prevent churches from being bombed if they want to keep the general population of the United States from getting too upset about the bombing of Gaza, right? Your average American doesn't give a shit when they're killing Muslims, right?
Yeah,
but exactly. If they kill Christians, then particularly in the South, those people get upset. And so it does make sense for them to want to protect that. Now, did that happen? I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's no way that Israel doesn't know where every single building in Gaza is already, what they are. There's no way they don't know that. Yeah. Just like I'm sure they knew those hospitals weren't being used for military use. They knew that.
Yeah, because the agenda is to raze it to the ground. There's nothing to counter that assertion. They are leveling it to the ground, and they're working their way south, and they're not letting up. I did see whatever the proposed U.S. mission with ships and whatnot into the Red Sea was called, Operation Optional Prosperity or whatever the fuck it is. You okay?
Sorry, my dog is eating my shoe.
That France, Spain, and Italy have bowed out of supporting Operation Dipshit Prosperity. Now, before people get too excited about this, I know in the case of France, they have a significant Arab Muslim population. Italy and Spain may have something similar, and France has had enormous internal problems with integration of Arab Muslims into French society. It's very segregated, it's very racist, it's very divided. And so their decision to not support this operation in the Red Sea is not about preserving the lives of Palestinians. It's about keeping your Arab population at home from causing problems for you at home. There's nothing altruistic about this. I'm glad that they're not supporting it, but for my money, Yemen is my fucking superhero, but Italy, France, and Spain can go fuck themselves.
I saw another article recently about that claimed that Biden had prevented Israel from attacking the West Bank at the beginning of this conflict.
Well, but they haven't not attacked the West Bank. They've been bulldozing homes and shooting Palestinians in the West Bank before October 7th, but they've definitely
right.
but not to the
Right, but
degree
you know
that
what I
they
mean.
like-
Not the full scale,
Yeah.
bombing that they're doing in Gaza.
But I think that more than Biden nudging Netanyahu to say leave the West Bank alone, I think the bigger deterrence is Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is a fucking military monster that, granted, is supported through, as a proxy from other countries, but they have estimated that Hezbollah has only used about 5% of the available munitions that they have in stock against Israel to date. And they have an enormous number of militants in their group, and Israel does not want that fight. That will be a long and drawn out battle that will probably drag Iran closer to being an active participant in this. But Hezbollah is definitely, I think, a big motivator for Israel staying out of the West Bank. And I say staying out of the West Bank when they're not actually doing that.
No, well, you're right. They've been building settlements and stuff everywhere they're not supposed to forever.
Hey, you're my top viewer in the live. Good job.
Because I open it and it just sits there. I'm waiting to get invited to co-host.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about Trump already, but let's just what's happened in the last week is when Trump tried to introduce his I have immunity because I was president, and anything I do when I'm president, I can't be prosecuted for it.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that. Jack Smith appealed it or wanted to skip the appeals court and go straight to the Supreme Court because he knows it's going to end up there anyway. So that was what he tried to do. The Supreme Court chose not to hear the case outside of the normal means, so it's going to go back to the appeals court. So the appeals court is going to rule on this case at some point in the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then it'll probably go to the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. Yep.
So it's still going to end up in the Supreme Court. It's just they're just not skipping over the appeals court, which is what Jack Smith wanted to do. And he couldn't really argue any good reason. The reason why he wants to skip the appeals court is because he wants to expedite everything to make sure the trial happens before the election. But that's not a legal argument. You can't go say to the Supreme Court, I want you to hear this case because I want to make sure this trial happens before the election. That's not a legal argument.
Right.
So he didn't really have an argument to justify skipping the appeals process. So that's why it's not a devastating blow to the case or anything.
Yeah.
It's just it's going to the appeals court first, which is normal. That's how it normally goes. So the appeals court, then the Supreme Court. And that's just how it's going to go. But the appeals court is expediting it, so it's going to happen quicker than it normally does in the appeals process.
Yeah, and regardless of how they decide in the appeals court, the losing side is going to take it to SCOTUS.
Absolutely.
And now it doesn't have to go to another district court before it goes to SCOTUS, right? It can go from the appeals court right to the SCOTUS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I've read Trump's assertions as to why he has immunity, and it's even from a layman's terms, it's absolutely ludicrous. It is the foundation of what he's arguing just makes no fucking sense. And I don't think that if the Supreme Court, well, first of all, if the appeals court decides that he does, I don't know what the fuck goes from there. But I just can't see his case winning for him.
No, because if it does, then the Supreme Court has to be willing to say that the law literally doesn't apply to the president ever.
Yeah.
They're not going to say that. There's no way they can say that.
Yeah. Because that would immediately take away the potential to impeach any president, to hold them accountable for anything at any level, and that's an insane proposition. Nobody thinks that's how these things should work.
No. So I don't see how Trump wins that argument at all. His trial is going to happen, and I think him and his lawyers know that. They're just trying to delay it to after the election. Because if he gets elected, he will have no problem trying to pardon himself, which I don't know if they ever decided when they thought he might do that before, whether he could do that or not. I don't think there's. It really seems like the presidential pardon is pretty absolute. You can do it. You can pardon anyone you want. So he probably can pardon himself.
There needs to be something set up, a committee or something, making a list of all this shit that just absolutely was uncharted territory. It's now charted territory, and what the precedents are, what the expectations are, what the rules are for these things. Like the issue of presidential pardons should either be greater minutia should be put into it, greater clarification, or it should be eliminated altogether. I'd be happy if it was eliminated altogether. I hate the idea that this is a thing that presidents can do. I don't like it.
But it's not just presidents; executives at every level could do that. I mean, that's the thing. Governors can pardon for state crimes. The president can pardon for federal crimes. All the executive branches can pardon for crimes at that level. That's a thing at every level. Mayors can pardon for city crimes. But the power of the pardon for the president is in the Constitution. So they can't just change it. It will take an amendment, which is never going to happen.
Well, yeah, there are several amendments that we need based on, again, the dynamics of the past 6 years and everything that's going on. There are a number of amendments that are needed. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Somebody's working on this shit, but nobody's working on it because, like you said, it's never going to pass any of that.
No. I don't want to say never. Not anytime soon. We'll see if Gen Z is about to become the biggest voting bloc, and we know that they're further left than any of the other generations. We'll see what Gen Alpha grows up to be.
I hope.
And if Gen Z and when the boomers are all gone, and maybe half of Gen X is gone, and you and I are in the retirement home, maybe then there'll be enough young people, currently young people, will be a big enough voting bloc to get some real change happening. Maybe. I don't know.
So Biden pardoned another group of marijuana convicts on the federal level. That was just a...
Didn't he pardon all of them?
No. Well, I don't know.
No?
Did he?
Yeah, I mean, if it was just possession, like if their only crime was possession, I'm pretty sure he pardoned them all.
Marijuana proclamation pardoned people who were committed or were convicted of the offense of simple possession, attempted simple possession, and use of marijuana. So, yeah, that was 2 days ago. It's not all of them. It's just thousands more.
Mm.
But...
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see anything altruistic in it. I just see a political pandering move.
Yeah, he pissed all the young people off with his position on Palestine. So let's do this, and maybe that'll get me some of that young vote back.
Yep.
I don't know.
Can you imagine if Biden gets reelected, what kind of mental condition he's going to be in?
When he's 86.
Yeah, like in the third year of his second term. I'm seeing him make statements. I'm seeing him make.
Yeah, it'll be like Dianne Feinstein. What do you mean?
He was doing a speech recently where he talked about his father was in a kibbutz in Israel during the October 7th attacks and hunkered down in his. Yeah, that's not fucking true, man. That's like, oh my God. So yeah, it's gonna be very ugly.
That's another amendment. They should. So, yeah, you have to be 35 to run for the presidency. Let's put a top level age limit on it too.
Yes, that's common fucking sense. Oh
yeah, it's the worst case scenario because you have all these people with no time left. They're all going to be dead in 10 years or less.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones making all the laws that are going to affect the rest of us for 100 years. It makes no sense.
Now, I guess this would be on a state-by-state basis, But are there age? Yeah, each state would have their own restrictions for senators in terms of minimum age, right? Or is that a federal law for senators?
It's federal law. Like your qualifications are federal for federal positions. States are allowed to decide how the elections are run. But there's a lot of laws currently on the book about age discrimination that they would have to overcome, because you can't disqualify someone that's over 50 from a job because they're over 50. You can't do that. So they'd have to change that law too to get an age limit on the, set. But yeah, I would love there to be age limits, and it should go up. We should have people in the House should be like in their 20s. That's where you should be. And then you do, a few terms in the House, then you go to the Senate in your 30s, and then you're president in your 40s, and then you go sit on a board of some corporation somewhere.
Yep.
Right?
But I think you sort of connected the issue of age discrimination in the workplace with what would be the debacle of trying to put an top age restriction on senators. I think we need to, first of all, being elected to the Senate, not a job. It should not be a job. It should be public service. And that should be the distinction between age-related legislation in the public workplace versus age-related restrictions in the government elected positions ecosphere. I think those things need to be divided. I think that being a senator it's not your fucking job. You should be working a job as well as being a senator. You should be.
Personally, I would like the Senate to be abolished altogether. Let's just have the House. Let's have a bigger House, a much bigger House, like 1,000 members in the House.
I've seen that proposal before. Yeah.
No Senate. We don't need the Senate. The whole point of the Senate was to protect the interests of the landowners. That was the whole purpose of the Senate. The House is for the people. The Senate was for the landowners. We need to get rid of that system altogether. We don't need the Senate. Get rid of it.
Agreed.
Make the House bigger, though, because it's not big enough. What is the number? How many people does a House member represent these days? I think it's over 500,000.
What do you mean?
Well, each district has the same number of people in it.
Mm-hmm.
What is that number? Because as the population grows, then each district has more people in it. They used to add House members to accommodate for that, but they haven't done that in decades.
Yeah, I can't get like a nationwide number. All I'm getting is Florida results for some fucking reason.
It's the same everywhere.
Well, yeah, but there's a different number of districts in each state. And so the number of... So Florida gets 28 representatives and House representatives.
There are 761,179 people in each House district. 750,000 people. That's crazy. How many people are in a House district? In, let's see, 1,800.
Shit. The survey says...
I don't know. Okay. 1,800, it was 34,609. And now it's 761,169.
Is that commensurate with what the population in total was in the U.S. then versus now? pretty close.
Well, yeah, but they've also changed how many House members there are a few times. Initially, there were, I don't know. It's been 435 since 1913. But it was, I don't know how many it was before that, but they raised it to 435 in 1913, and that's where it's been ever since.
It's time for a change.
Yeah, so in 1913, each district was 210,000 people. So it's more than 3 times that number today. So the House should be 3 times bigger. 1,200 members. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I mean, it's literally insane. Like, how can there's a lot, like, for example, to attend a military academy, you have to have your House member or your senator appoint you. If each congressperson has 700,000 people, how many of those appointments are they reading? You know, like, I don't know how many people apply to go to the military academies, but I mean, I know it's not everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, that's too many people. They can't service that many people effectively. They can't.
12,589 applications. West Point. That's nobody's reading that shit.
So if there's 400 districts, that's 300 per district ish.
How many districts?
300 and something. There's 435.
I don't know. I fucked up the numbers. I can't get them back. It's too much to think about.
12,000 divided by 400 is it 30 or 300? It's 30. 30. Okay, it's only 30. So I guess they all could do it.
40.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's not that many. I mean, the congressperson doesn't have to read them. You know, they got staff that does it, and then they'll say, "Oh, this one's pretty good. Maybe we should appoint this guy." I don't know. Anyway, I would support 100% increasing the size of the House. What else you got? We've exhausted our outline.
And then some. Let me just look at the newsfeed again.
Someone did say there's no more debates in the comments in the live.
I didn't see that. There's no more. What do you mean, like political debates?
They probably said it at the time where you asked if there were any more debates for the Republicans for the primary.
Oh.
They said no more debates.
Yeah, I don't see that comment anywhere in there. That's weird. Like, literally, it's just been you and I and one other person in the live for the last... Oh, there it is. I see the comment now. So, yeah, next weekend is New Year's Eve. What are you doing?
Probably nothing.
Same here.
Probably nothing. I'll have my new microphone.
Yeah, if I order mine tomorrow, I don't know if I will. I mean, our sound is better today than it's been previously. I don't know why. But what was I going to say? There was something having to do with next Sunday that I can't remember now. Oh, we had a shooting in Ocala, Florida, which is down south of here, at a mall.
Yeah, was that the one at the mall?
Yeah. They still haven't caught the guys or the guy. I guess it was only one guy.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a personal dispute.
They're saying it was targeted, so yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind those as much because I don't usually give people a reason to shoot me. It's the random murders I don't like.
I don't know. I had some asshole come on to one of my posts on TikTok and say, I'd like to sit across from you and you tell me what's wrong with me, tough guy. So I replied and gave him my address. And TikTok took my comment down. And then I appealed it, and they said, no, you can't give people your address. Fuck you. Do what I want. Yeah, that's all I got for this week.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
See you next week. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
So I will do some kind of bullshit live for the next 7 days, and then we can do a co-host on next Sunday.